I'm Erica.
And I'm Chris, and we're the pastors of Horizon Church, and we are so glad that you're joining us online today.
Horizon Church is a movement of God. We exist to help you discover your God-given purpose through connection, impact, and generosity. We want to connect to you right now and help you connect to God. If you'll take just a minute and text the word Horizon to the number 94000, we can't wait to connect with you later this week.
If you've been joining us for a little while and you're ready to take that next step in your faith, I'll invite you to go to horizontpa.info, and it's there you'll find out more information about small groups and ways that you can impact our community through serving. And it's also there that you can give to Horizon to support the ministries through your generosity.
In James chapter 2, verse 8, it says, "Love your neighbor as yourself, and you will do the right thing." If you hear nothing else today, we want you to know that if you feel like you haven't done anything right in a long time, all you have to do is love your neighbor as yourself today, and you'll get something right. We're so excited for you to join us today for this worship service. In just a minute, Abby and the band are going to sing a song, and then I'll bring a message about how you can continue to work for a life of following Jesus and how to pray for it. Thank you so much for joining us. Hang on. We can't wait to see what God is going to do in you and through you.
Joy I own, and brokenness and pain is all I know. I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand
there. I'm Erica Allen. I'm one of the pastors of Horizon Church. Thank you so much for joining us for Horizon Online today. We are beginning our second message in the series, Work for It, Pray for It. This is a message series that focuses on the book of James. It's a book in the New Testament, which means it's found in the second half of the Bible. And this study is really about James, who is presumed to be the brother of Jesus, is writing to new Christians and the new church thousands of years ago, and he's saying to them, we've got to start living in a way that's compelling to the culture around us so we can be a part of the transformation that Jesus wants to happen for us, in us, and through us in our community. The reason this message series is called Work for It, Pray for It is because we have to work for it and we have to pray for it. This is what James' message is. He just says it in a bazillion different ways over the 6 chapters. Basically, he says, following Jesus isn't going to come natural. Like, you aren't going to automatically be able to say, hey, let me figure out how to love someone else in a healthy way more than I love myself. Let me figure out how I can be intentional to hang out with people who don't look like me, smell like me, make the same amount of money as me. How can I be really intentional in being a friend or a part of the community around me when that doesn't always come natural to us, right? How do I keep my mouth, shut or open in ways that hold up or uplift the people around us? James says that's an important part of following Jesus in this. So James is just really clear. You have to work for it. You have to be intentional in a life when you are trying to follow, in your life when you are trying to follow Jesus. You have to be intentional and work for it. But James also says you have to acknowledge that you're not going to be able to follow Jesus just on your own. We live in a culture that teaches us you can do it all by yourself, right? You can figure out how to follow Jesus and you don't need the help of anybody or anything. And that James just tells us that's not an accurate way to live your life. Like, you're actually going to have to accept and relish the forgiveness and love of God. Like, just sit still and accept it to be able to follow Jesus. And that's hard to do in our culture. It's hard for me as a pastor to do sometimes, to just sit down and say, God, I can't do this on my own. And I need to be reminded of your love and your goodness and your forgiveness for me in my life. Pray for it. Acknowledge that we aren't capable of following Jesus and doing the things he's asked us to do on our own. We need God's help. Acknowledge that. So we have to work for it. We have to be intentional. Every single step has to be really intentional and really well thought out. Not because following Jesus is hard. It's really simple. It is very simple to follow Jesus, but it doesn't always come natural. But those things that do come natural aren't really working for me. I don't know about you, but they're not really working for me anyway. So I'm willing to figure out what God wants me to do to work for this life that Jesus has for us and promises to us. And I'm willing to pray for it. I'm recognizing more and more I'm not enough on my own. I need God's help to be able to follow Jesus and offer God's good love and forgiveness to the people around me. I need to work for it and pray for it. And today we're going to talk about how God wants us to do just that in our lives and in our community. I want to ask you a question right now as we get started this morning, or this evening, or whenever you're listening to this, right? I want to ask you a question. If you could be a part of building a new city, would you say yes? If I came up to you right now, if I jumped out of this computer screen or TV screen or whatever you're watching, and I said, hey, we're going to build a new city. We get to decide what businesses there are. We get to decide what buildings there are. We get to decide how the children are taught or educated or formed. We get to decide where the streets go and where the trees are planted. We get to be a part of building a brand new city. If I came up to you and said, hey, will you be a part of this with me? Will you help me build a brand new city? What would you say? Would you say yes to that? What if I asked you this question? Would you be a part of transforming Tampa? Like, we take the existing buildings and we build them or change them in a way that meets the needs of our community right here and right now. We take the schools that are already here and we join in with them and we figure out the best ways to support the teachers who are giving it everything they've got. And we come alongside the students and help make sure they're learning and growing and successful, whatever it takes, making sure they have enough food and enough clothes and anything they need. We come alongside them. Would you be a part of transforming the city of Tampa? If I said we're going to figure out how to serve and walk alongside our friends who are unhoused and don't have a place to sleep at night, we're going to make sure that people in our community that don't always know where their next meal is coming from, we're going to come alongside them and make sure they have the meals they need. If I asked you, would you be a part of transforming Tampa, transforming our city, would you say yes? Would you say, I want to be a part of that? I want to be a part of a healthcare system that makes sure our people who are sick and hurting and dying experience new life and health. Would you say yes to that? Would you say yes to making sure the lonely and disconnected and hopeless in our community have connection and are connecting to their purpose and are impacting the lives of others? If you could be a part of transforming our city, would you say yes? Would you say yes? This is God's question to us through James this morning. If you could be a part of transformation, would you do it? And he says there's two things you have to do. You have to believe in it and you have to act like you believe in it. Your actions have to match the things that you believe in. If you have your Bible with me, if you'll open up to James chapter 2, verse 14, we are going to talk about how we can be a part of transforming our city. That's right, your purpose. God has a special purpose for you to be a part of transforming the place where you are right now. And this morning, we're going to figure out how we can work for that and how we can pray for it and be a part of something new that God is doing. James chapter 2, verse 14. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Let me say it a different way. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to believe in something, if you believe that transformation is possible for our city, if you believe transformation is possible for your life, if you believe transformation is possible for the lives of the people around you, what good is it to believe that, but you have no action to back it up? Can our faith and our belief save the people around us? Is our belief enough? Can such faith save us and the people around us? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is that? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. Let's look at these verses again. If a brother or sister is without clothes or daily food, if they come up to you with dirty clothes and they don't have anything to eat for the day, and you look at them, they come up to you and they say, I don't have what I need today, or they don't even say it. You just look at them and you know they don't have to say it. If you look at them and say, go in peace, go in peace, get away from me in peace, keep warm and well fed, best of luck to you, but you don't do anything about their physical needs, what good is it to bless them with peace, to pray for them to stay warm and fed? What good is that? In the same way, belief, faith in God's ability to transform our lives and the community, in the same way, faith in that by itself, if it's not accompanied by action, if you aren't rolling your sleeves up to make sure this good news is shared through word and deed, it is dead. It might as well not even be something you invest in. Someone might say to you, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You believe that there is one God? Good. Even the demons believe that, and they shudder at the thought of it. Let's go back and look at these verses again. Someone might say to you, you have faith. You believe in Jesus, but I have deeds. You believe in a God that will transform our community and make it a better day for the people who don't have clothes, who don't have food, who don't have the things they need. You have faith that God cares about those people, but I have deeds. Folks, if you don't know someone who's not in the church, I promise you, I hear this nearly every day. You have faith in a God that can transform the world, but I don't have that kind of faith, and I still spend my days figuring out how to work for it. You have faith, I have deeds. James says, show me your faith without deeds. Show me what you believe without there being some kind of action to go with it. And I will show you that the only way that I can have faith in Jesus, faith in a God who's transforming my life and the lives of people around us, is by my actions, what I do from day to day. You believe that there is one God capable of bringing us together, connecting us, and changing the world. You believe that. Good. Good. I'm glad you believe that. Even the demons believe that. Even the people, then the things at work in our world, like literally working against God, they believe that there is one God powerful enough to bring this new day and this goodness to the world. There is a God big enough and good enough to transform the entire world. The demons even believe that, and they shudder. God asks us today, what good is it to believe that transformation is possible, but to not do anything to work for it? I have a vision. I have a vision of a city where people are thriving. Not running an exhausting rat race that will never satisfy. A city that is thriving. A city where high school boys don't die from drug overdoses. When there are Christian men sitting in our churches and watching our online services who can mentor and serve and love them and tell them there's a new day and a new hope possible. I have a vision. I have a vision of a city where we don't whisper about the addictions of other people, but that we know exactly where to encourage people to go to find healing and recovery and sobriety. I have a vision. I have a vision of a city not defined by 3 years of a school year interrupted by COVID-19, but a city where people were so committed to making sure our children, all of them, were thriving and successful that they rolled their sleeves up and gave up their lunch breaks or whatever other 30 minutes they could find during the week to tutor and mentor and walk alongside our kids. I have a vision. I have a vision of a city where teachers feel supported and loved and excited to spend their days living out the purpose God has given to them to teach and educate children. I have a vision. I have a vision of a city where people are baptized. They're giving up their old ways and they are committing to walk step by step in the simple and beautiful and amazing but unnatural life of following Jesus. And it's changing everything. I have a vision. I have a vision of marriages healed, people's financial troubles not troubling them anymore. I have a vision of a city completely and totally transformed by a church that one day was small, but in a very near future was big and expanding and busting at the seams. Not because of what we did, but because we worked for the day that we believed in, that God called us to, and we prayed for it every single day. A day that we believed in and that we rolled our sleeves up and worked for. A day that we prayed for. I believe in a city that can thrive. I believe in a human being that's watching this right now. I believe in you because I believe in Jesus Christ's power to forgive you, to redeem you, and to make you new. And to make clear your purpose, to share generously God's love with a world desperate for it. Maybe you're listening right now and you're like, you don't understand. I can't be a part of the transformation of the city. I want you to listen to these words of James. In the same way was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous. She was still considered righteous for what she did because she gave lodging to spies and then she sent them out in a different direction. Rahab the prostitute, who everybody looked at and was like, there is no way God can use them for God's purposes. There is no way God can use Rahab. And you know what she did? She saved an entire people, an entire tribe, an entire group of people because of what she did. Because she believed in a God who could redeem her and transform her and make her new. And she said, I will do whatever it takes, God, to make that message of transformation real and alive in the world today. Not even Rahab was considered beyond the purposes of God. She called these spies in. She said, come on in and spend the night here. I'm going to tell you where to go in the morning. And she sent them off in the wrong direction, saving an entire group of people, giving them the ability and the opportunity to live into the transformation God had for them. I promise you, God can use you for God's purpose. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? God's purposes are for you. Can you believe it? Can you work for it? And can you pray for it? Maybe you're like, I've been in church my whole life. I believe in God, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what a faithful life looks like anymore. Listen to these words of James. You foolish person. Do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Have you been doing this church thing long enough that you need to know that your faith without action is useless? Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? There was a man named Abraham who God called up. He gave him a son that he never even imagined he would be able to have. And then he asked Abraham to go out into the wilderness, and Abraham offered to sacrifice his son on the altar. His faith, Abraham's faith and actions were working together. And his faith was made complete by what he did. He didn't have to sacrifice Isaac. He just had to be willing to give whatever it took to follow Jesus. The scripture was fulfilled when it said, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. A person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. It takes belief and action, faith and works, working and praying. It takes both. If you have been watching online for a while, if you've been living a life that feels pointless and desperate, I need to tell you that the reason James spent his life writing letters to this new church is because he saw the vision of his brother. He saw God's vision come to life through Jesus Christ. He watched men lay down their jobs and change their entire life to walk step by step by step behind a man who would give whatever it took to make the purposes of God come alive on the earth. If you're like, my faith feels dead, what action can you take today to make it come alive? What can you give away? What can you give up? What can you step into so that other people may know of this goodness of faith? There were men who laid down their jobs and changed their entire lives. There were women who gave up their homes so that other people could live in them and be able to share the message of Jesus with people. The early church shared everything they had with one another. They sold everything they had, making sure orphans and widows had a place to stay and to be loved, because they knew if we want to make this way of Jesus as compelling as it was for those first disciples, we've got to be willing to give up whatever it is that we have. And they said, they were really clear. There's a place in our church, in our community. There is a place for the purposes of people just like Rahab and Abraham. People who don't know who in the world Jesus is, has never opened their Bibles, to the people who've been at this faith thing a long time and are like, I don't know what this means anymore. There is a place for all of us in this faith of Jesus. And there is work to be done in our city. There is a God who is saying really clearly to us, work for it and pray for it. So right now, before you log out of this, I want you to roll up your sleeves right now and figure out one thing you're going to do to work for the purposes of Jesus right now, today. Not this week, not later today, right now. As soon as this is turned off, what's the one thing you're going to do to follow Jesus today? And then I want you to get on your knees and I want you to pray. I want us to work for it and pray for it, just like James said, because there is a city desperate for the transformation of God. And God's purpose of transformation is going to come alive in you as you step by step follow Jesus, working for it and praying for it. Do the unnatural thing right now, today. Follow Jesus. Do one action right now that will make the love of Jesus come alive in our world.